Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Let me tell you a story that starts not with tears, but with laughter. Hers. She came in barefoot, laughing, holding her shoes like some teenager sneaking back after prom. The door hadn't even closed behind her before she tossed her heels and called out. "You're not gonna believe last night." There was this glow on her face. Not the glow of someone who missed home. Not even the kind of glow you get from good news. This was something else. She looked down the hallway and spotted me standing there. And then, still laughing, she said, "It was harmless, I swear. Like, the dumbest little dare. A one-night stand that meant nothing. Don't give me that face." I hadn't said a word. I didn't have a face. I was blank. Because that morning, before she returned, I had already done what most husbands in my shoes only imagine doing. I had removed every trace of myself from our shared life. Every file. Every key. Every scent. She walked in laughing. But I was already gone. Not physically. Not yet. But in every other way that mattered, I had disappeared. She stepped toward me, barefoot on the cold hardwood floor, spinning her little lie like it was some sitcom joke. Her tote bag still had a hotel tag on it. Her necklace was twisted. And her voice, oh, her voice, danced like nothing was broken. But then, she glanced toward the mantel. And her smile cracked. "Where's the urn?" That was the first time her voice shook. She meant the small marble urn that held Ash's remains, our border collie who passed 2 years ago. Her favorite. The one she called her baby. She rushed over. Scanned the living room. Looked beneath the shelf. Looked at me. "Where the hell is Ash?" I simply said, "With me." "What does that mean?" she snapped. It meant that the safe deposit box I opened yesterday now held more than just documents. It held the only thing in this house she truly loved without question. It held loyalty. Something she no longer knew the meaning of. Her mouth opened like she was going to yell, or lie again, or cry. But before she could, I turned and walked upstairs. And on every step I took, I could feel her laughter from 5 minutes ago unravel into silence. A silence that would only get deeper. Because Ash wasn't the only one I took with me. I stayed upstairs for 13 minutes. I know because I counted every second it took for her voice to rise again. The thing about silence is, when someone's used to controlling the noise, it starts to terrify them. That's what was happening downstairs. First came the soft footsteps. Then the shuffle of furniture. Then the first slammed drawer. She was looking for something, probably the urn. Maybe me. But more likely, some way to turn this into a joke again. Only this time, I wasn't going to laugh. When I finally came back down, she was sitting on the living room floor, her hair in a messy knot now, clutching the blanket we kept for winter nights. She looked up like a child about to blame someone else. "Where did you put everything?" she asked, as if my life, our home, our shared trust were just a few things misplaced during spring cleaning. I didn't answer her question. Instead, I handed her a small envelope, unsealed, thick, and slightly warped from the heat of the safe. She stared at it like I just handed her a detonator. "What's this?" "Open it." She hesitated, of course. Delilah always hesitated when she wasn't sure how to twist the truth. Finally, she slipped her manicured finger under the flap and pulled out a USB drive, a note, and 3 printed photographs. Her face dropped the second she saw the first picture. It was her, at the hotel bar, leaning over a man I didn't recognize. His hand was on her lower back. Her mouth was on his ear. It was grainy, but clear enough. She flipped to the next photo, the hallway. Him kissing her neck. The last photo, their hands interlocked as they entered her hotel room. Still, she tried. "It's not what it looks like," she said, voice already cracking. I walked to the dining table and sat down. Then you won't mind watching the video. That's when she noticed the laptop. Already open. Already queued. The screen showed a paused security cam clip from a hallway marked, Floor 6, East Wing. The timestamp matched the night she returned from her Harmless trip. She didn't press play. Instead, she asked, "Why would you go through my stuff?" I laughed. Not bitterly. Just, hollow. Your stuff. I repeated. You mean our marriage? Or our dog's urn? Or the 11 years you said I was your best friend? I didn't do anything, she insisted. It was stupid. I was drunk. I didn't even sleep with him. But that last sentence, it came too quickly. Too clean. Like she had practiced it. That's when I told her about the basement. You forgot about the old Wi-Fi router, I said. The one we stored in the box marked camping gear. It still worked. And it caught everything. She froze. She knew what that meant. Our house had a Nest Cam installed years ago, the one she thought I stopped paying for. I hadn't. And the night before her trip, while I was helping her pack, she had a call with someone named R. She went down to the basement thinking I was asleep. I wasn't. I recorded it. Now, that audio was part of the USB. She looked at me like she didn't know who I was. Like I was the stranger. I stood up. Not angrily. Not dramatically. I just stood and pointed to the hallway. There's a suitcase by the door, I said. It has your essentials. Don't worry, I didn't touch your keepsakes. Those are boxed in the garage. You can take them later. But you won't be sleeping here tonight. Her lip trembled. You're overreacting. I nodded slowly. You're right. I should have reacted a long time ago. I started walking away. But before I reached the stairs, she shouted something I didn't expect. Where's the bracelet? That's when I knew she finally felt it. Not the guilt. Not the shame. But the loss. Because she knew exactly which bracelet she meant. And it was no longer in the house. She didn't scream. Not right away. When I said nothing about the bracelet, just stood there, watching her search the living room like a frantic mother looking for a lost child, something inside her shifted. Her eyes lost that sharpness, that manipulative glint I had come to recognize over the years, buried beneath layers of her charm. Now, for the first time in a long time, she looked unsure. Like her web had finally caught her instead of me. She stormed into the hallway and flung open the coat closet, knocking over the umbrella stand and pulling down an old shoebox that didn't even belong to her. You don't get to take that, she hissed. It's mine. You don't even understand what it means to me. Funny. Because she didn't seem to care what I meant to her when she let another man into her hotel room. I sat back down at the table, arms crossed, watching the unraveling. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't argue. Didn't gloat. There's something powerful, and exhausting, about holding silence when someone else is trying to rewrite the truth in real time. She kept listing reasons why a stupid one-time mistake shouldn't end a marriage. She said I was being cruel. She said I was giving up too easily. That's when I quietly pulled out my phone and slid it across the table toward her. Open to a screenshot of her texts. She didn't know I had synced her messages. She didn't even look shocked anymore, more like tired. Like the lies had worn her down too. You didn't just mess up once, Delilah, I said. There's a string of names. A whole timeline. She picked up the phone like it was covered in thorns, then gently placed it back down. I could see the gears turning. She was calculating. Not grieving. Not confessing. Just calculating what version of the story would cost her the least. Then she made her second mistake. She muttered, I should have deleted those. Not I'm sorry. Not I messed up. Just regret that she left a breadcrumb trail. So I got up again, walked to the cabinet above the fridge, the one she never bothered checking, and pulled out a small lockbox. She stepped back when she saw it, eyes locked on the brass dial like it was glowing. I knelt, spun the code, her birthday, and popped it open. Inside was the bracelet. Her grandmother's bracelet. The one she told me never to touch. The one she said she wanted to pass down someday, if we ever have a daughter. A piece of silver and sapphire that had survived generations. I held it up and said, "It was never about this. But you made it about this. Because you assumed I'd never hold anything sacred the way you did." She didn't move. Not an inch. So I continued. "I didn't take it to punish you. I took it because I knew the moment you walked in laughing, that you stopped seeing this home as something worth protecting." And then I gave her one last gift. I handed her the key to the lockbox. "You can take it. But I want you to look in the mirror before you do. If you can look at yourself and say, without blinking, that this marriage still has air in its lungs, take it. If not, you leave the key on the table and walk away." She didn't even touch the key. Instead, she turned to her purse. Her hands were shaking. She dug through it, then pulled out her phone. I thought she was calling her sister, maybe her mom. But when I leaned over slightly, I saw the name on the screen. Brenda. Our mutual friend. My former coworker. The woman who introduced us. I didn't say anything, but my chest tightened. Brenda had texted her earlier that morning. I'd seen it when backing up Delilah's messages. One sentence. "He knows. Be careful what you say." The phone slipped slightly in her hand as she read the screen again. And that's when the tears started. But not for me. Not even for what she'd done. They were for what she knew was coming next. Delilah didn't sleep that night. Or maybe she did, just not here. I stayed in the house, but I didn't hear the front door open or close. I didn't hear her car start. At some point, I stopped listening for her altogether. That was a first. Normally, I couldn't fall asleep unless I heard her breathing next to me. Now, the silence was easier than her voice. The morning came slowly. I made coffee out of muscle memory. Didn't touch it. I sat in the kitchen with my hands wrapped around the mug, not for warmth, but for something to hold on to. The sun crawled through the blinds like it was ashamed of what it had to light up. Eventually, I stood and started making space in the living room, not for myself, but for what was coming. At 11:42 a.m., there was a knock on the door. She was supposed to come back that morning to pick up the rest of her things. I expected tears, another performance, maybe even a speech about how we could heal or go to therapy. But instead, I opened the door and found someone else entirely. Brenda. Our mutual friend. The one whose name popped up on Delilah's phone the day before. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, dressed casually but not carelessly. She looked at me for a long moment before she even spoke. "She told me not to come," Brenda said. Which is exactly why I did. I stepped aside, wordless, and let her in. She didn't sit down. Just stood there, arms crossed, scanning the room like she was assessing the wreckage of a crash site. "She's not okay," she said finally. "But neither are you. And it's time someone told the truth." I didn't know what she meant. But I didn't interrupt. "She lied to me too," Brenda continued. "Told me it was just a kiss, just a stupid bar game. But she forgot I know the man she met. He's not from the convention. He's someone she'd met before. Months ago. He works in Portland, Everett. She flew out early, told you it was work. It wasn't." I felt my stomach churn. This was the part of betrayal that stings the worst, realizing that even the first version of the truth was still dressed in lies. Brenda stepped closer. I didn't come here to play messenger. I came to give you something. She pulled out her phone and showed me a video. It was a screen recording of a voicemail. She hit play. Bren, I screwed up. Like, really screwed up. Everett found the bracelet, the photos, everything. He looked at me like I was furniture. Dead furniture. He's not yelling. He's not fighting. He's just, done. I didn't think he had it in him. There was a long pause in the recording. Then Delilah's voice returned, quieter. Tell him. I miss when he used to cry when I left. That meant something. Now he doesn't even blink. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream that she had no right to miss anything. But all I felt was a dull, exhausted ache. She missed my pain, not me. And now that the pain was silent, she was scared. She thought silence meant the end. She was right. Brenda locked her phone and looked at me. You're not the only one she's broken, you know. She lied to everyone. But you're the one she counted on never leaving. I nodded. She was right. I didn't leave. Yet, Brenda said. She paused again, then added, there's more. And I think you know that. There's always more with Delilah. And I did know. Because 2 nights before her business trip, I found a note in her coat pocket. A handwritten list. It wasn't a grocery list. It was a list of reasons. Reasons she gave herself to justify what she was about to do. Wine helps, it read. Everett won't leave. He needs me. One night won't change anything. Don't think, just do it. I had folded it back and kept it in my wallet. Now, I pulled it out and handed it to Brenda. She read it without blinking. Her jaw tightened. Then she handed it back. She's not the only one who needs to leave, Brenda said. But the difference is, you still get to choose how. Before she left, she gave me one last piece of advice. When she shows up, and she will, don't let her rewrite the ending. Then she turned and walked out without another word. For the first time in days, I felt something close to clarity. The woman I had married was gone. But the woman who was about to come back. She wasn't ready for what I'd prepared next. It took her 3 days to come back. Not a text. Not a call. Just silence, like she thought time would sand down the sharp edges she left behind. But time doesn't soften betrayal. It just hardens the people you leave bleeding. When she finally returned, it wasn't to make amends. It wasn't even to beg. It was to reclaim things, clothes, perfume, shoes still in boxes, framed memories that meant more to me than they ever did to her. She walked through our house like it was a boutique, not the place where we once whispered promises under candlelight. She barely looked at me. Until she saw the letter on the table. It was folded once, placed directly beneath the key she'd once sworn never to lose, the one to the cabin in Mistwood. Our anniversary getaway. A place we hadn't visited in 3 years. I hadn't touched that cabin. Not until now. She stared at the key. Why did you leave this here? I didn't answer. She picked up the envelope. Her name was written on it in my handwriting. The same handwriting I used when I wrote vows that she now pretended never existed. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. I watched her eyes scan the first line, then narrow. Then widen. Delilah. If you're reading this, it means you still care about something. Maybe not me. Maybe not us. But something. She swallowed hard. Continued reading. I packed your things. But I didn't burn them, like you said I might in one of your jokes. I didn't throw your clothes in the street or smash your laptop. I even left your favorite wineglass, the one with the tiny crack at the stem you never noticed. Because I'm not like you. I don't erase what doesn't serve me anymore. She folded the letter halfway and looked at me. "You're being dramatic." I smiled. Not bitterly. Just tired. "You haven't even read the second page." She unfolded it. This one wasn't a letter. It was a photo. A screenshot. Of her and him, not at the hotel bar, but at the cabin. The Mistwood cabin. Dated 7 months ago. Her breath caught. I didn't speak. I had checked the cabin's external cameras the week she went missing for a creative retreat. I didn't even know she had the key until I saw her handwriting on the guest book next to his. His name was Nathan. I recognized it from the contact list she tried to delete. She blinked hard and dropped the paper like it burned. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Long enough to stop asking why," I said. "And long enough to ask how." "How?" she whispered. "How did I love someone who never existed?" That shut her up. But she wasn't done. She walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge like she lived here, and pulled out a bottle of wine. "You're not the only one hurting, Everett." That made me laugh. Finally, a laugh. "You hurt because you got caught," I said. "You don't miss me, Delilah. You miss being the center of a story where no one questions you." She slammed the bottle on the counter. "I came back to talk. Not be judged. I didn't invite you," I said plainly. "But you left the key," she snapped. "You left the cabin key." "That wasn't for you," I said. "It was for the woman who would have kept her vows. The woman who never showed up." I stood up and handed her a final envelope. "This is the reservation. It's in your name. No one else will be there. You can go alone. You can cry. You can scream. You can drink until the stars stop spinning." She didn't open it. Instead, she looked at me with something close to fear. Because she knew this wasn't a goodbye. This was a funeral. And she wasn't even allowed to speak at it. Delilah didn't take the envelope with her that night. She left it sitting on the kitchen counter, unopened, as if refusing to touch it would somehow erase what it represented. She tried to walk out with her head high, but the silence followed her like a ghost. I didn't stop her. I didn't say goodbye. I just closed the door behind her and locked it before her footsteps even hit the second stair. That was a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, I received an email from our old shared travel app, the one we used back when we still planned vacations together. I hadn't opened it in nearly a year, but apparently my login still worked. The email was a confirmation. A one-way flight. Booked under my name. Paid using points from our shared travel rewards, the ones I had transferred into my personal account weeks ago. But I hadn't booked anything. I opened the itinerary. A flight to Asheville. The same town where her sister lived. The same town Delilah had mentioned during an argument months ago, when she said, "If I ever disappear, don't be surprised if I end up in North Carolina." I remember brushing it off at the time, thinking it was just another empty threat. But now. This wasn't random. She had logged in under my credentials and booked a ticket, not for herself, but for me. As if sending me away would restore whatever control she thought she still had over my life. I stared at the screen for several minutes, the email blinking like a dare. My phone buzzed. Her name. I answered, but said nothing. She didn't say hello. Just, "Check your email." I did, I replied. "You're welcome," she said. I figured, maybe you need space. A chance to start over. Away from all this. I booked the Airbnb too. It's already confirmed. 3 weeks. You don't even have to pack much, I can ship anything else later. She sounded calm. Too calm. Like she was pitching a vacation, not offering exile. "You want me gone," I said. "I want peace," she replied. "For both of us." But I could hear the desperation between her syllables. This wasn't about peace. This was about appearance. If I left, she could control the narrative. I would become the one who ran away when things got hard. She could repaint the story into something softer. Everett just needed time. He's always been sensitive. I stayed, I tried, I healed. She was rewriting me before I even packed. So I asked her one question. Is this what you did with him? Did you plan a little escape too? Did you send him away when things got too real? That cracked the calm. No, she snapped. He left. After he realized I wasn't who he thought I was. Sound familiar? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. But because it was the first true thing she'd said in days. Even her affair had an expiration date. She couldn't hold anyone for long, not even the people she betrayed me for. I ended the call. Didn't say goodbye. Then I forwarded the flight confirmation to her inbox. No message. No subject line. Just one attachment. A PDF. Inside that file was every receipt. Every screenshot. Every password reset. Every photo. Every note. Every voice recording. Every timestamp. Every digital scar she'd left behind, catalogued, ordered, archived. She wanted a clean ending. I gave her a case file. An hour later, I received a single-line email from her. You've made your point. But she still hadn't opened the envelope on the kitchen counter. I knew that because the camera in the entryway still worked. Motion activated. Time-stamped. The envelope hadn't moved. Which meant she was still hoping this would fade. She still didn't understand. This wasn't a storm she could wait out. This was a slow-burning fuse, and the next explosion was already coming. Because there was one thing she had forgotten. The shared laptop. The one she used for work. The one she left behind. And it was still logged into her cloud drive. And in that drive? A draft. A letter. Untitled. Never sent. Addressed to someone named R. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't digging through her laptop like some cliché bitter ex-husband. I only opened it to cancel her remaining subscriptions, Spotify, Amazon, that overpriced meal prep app she swore would change our life. But while I was sorting through her cloud files, a folder blinked in the corner of the screen. Ideas, personal. It was buried deep, inside a chain of folders labeled for her work, marketing decks, analytics, campaign briefs. But this one? This was no client file. I clicked. Inside were fragments of things she never finished. A birthday letter to her sister. A note to her late father. A breakup message, dated a year ago, that I now knew wasn't meant for me. Then I saw it. A draft titled, Just in Case. I opened it, expecting some emotional purge. Instead, it was precise. Cold. Like someone writing their own alibi. R. I don't think he knows. I've been careful. I left the hotel under a different name. I wiped the call logs. I deleted the Lyft account and used cash. The camera at the rear exit was turned off. I checked twice. But just in case. If this ever comes back to me, I'll say it was an accident. That it was just one night. You mean more than that to me, but I won't go down for this. You knew the rules. The file ended there. No signature. No goodbye. I stared at the screen, sick to my stomach. This wasn't just a fling. This was planned. Protected. Hidden like a crime scene. She didn't just lie to me, she structured it like a campaign. And the worst part? R knew. Whoever he was, he signed up for it. Willingly. He knew she was married. He knew it was deceit, and he didn't care. Or worse, maybe he liked it that way. I checked the metadata. The file was last edited 4 days before she ever confessed to kissing someone. Before she claimed it was harmless fun. Before she laughed on her way through the door. And that's when something in me finally broke in a different way, not out of pain, but out of clarity. She hadn't been sorry. She'd just been sloppy. I closed the laptop, packed it in a box with the rest of her things, and dropped it by the door. Then I sat down with a notepad, yes, actual paper, and started writing everything I'd never said out loud. Not for her. Not even for me. But to remind myself that I saw all of it now. I saw the way she changed her perfume when she traveled. I saw the way she stopped locking the bathroom door. I saw the extra toothbrush in her gym bag that she swore was for work trips. I saw the 2 missed calls from a number saved as Lenny, HR, and I saw the text that followed it, saying, same time next month. But the worst thing I saw was how I kept making space for her lies. And I wasn't going to do it anymore. That night, just after midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to pick up. I said nothing. A voice on the other end whispered, "Is this Everett?" I paused. "Who's asking?" The voice, male, quiet, nervous, replied, "You don't know me. But I know Delilah. I didn't know you existed until last week." She said she was divorced. I froze. My fingers tightened around the phone. "Who are you?" He hesitated. Then said, "I'm Robert. But I think she called me R. I didn't know she was married. I swear. I found her ring in her purse by accident, and when I asked, she said it was over. That you were just roommates. She told me she'd left months ago." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because he had no idea what he'd just confirmed. He kept talking. "I only called because, well, I thought you should know she was with me at the cabin. I didn't know it was your place. She said it was hers. Of course she did. I left when I found out," he added. "We haven't spoken since. I feel awful. I thought maybe you deserved to know everything." I thanked him. Not because I forgave him. But because now, for the first time, I knew the full picture. She hadn't slipped. She had chosen this, again and again. The lies weren't to protect me. They were to protect her version of herself. But tomorrow, that version would end. Because I had one final surprise. Something waiting at the cabin. Something she didn't know I ever found. And the key to unlocking it was already in her purse. She must have thought I left the cabin untouched. That I hadn't been there since the last summer we spent watching lightning storms through the window and pretending nothing outside those walls could break us. But I had been back. Once. 2 months ago. And what I found there rewrote everything I thought I knew. The back room, the one we used to store board games and extra blankets, had changed. The futon was gone. A new rug was in its place. And mounted near the ceiling, just behind a decorative vase, was a small lens. It blinked blue when I passed. She had set up a security camera. But it wasn't syncing to our usual cloud account. It was feeding somewhere else. When I returned home, I dug deeper. I found a secondary email. One Delilah had registered with a variation of her maiden name. And inside the inbox? Clips. Dated, labeled, neatly archived. One of them was from the night she swore she was in Chicago for a product launch. The file was titled, Mistwood_Saturday_night. MOV. I didn't watch it. I didn't need to. Because this wasn't about what she did anymore. This was about who I was becoming without her. I deleted the folder. Not out of forgiveness, but because carrying that kind of weight would only anchor me to someone who had already let go. Instead, I did something else. I drove back to the cabin. Alone. No plans. No speeches. Just peace. I unpacked one bag, opened the windows, let the air wash through the dust, and built a fire, not because it was cold, but because I wanted to feel warmth that didn't come with conditions. At sunrise, I sat on the porch with a pen and a single sheet of paper. I didn't write her name. I didn't write goodbye. I just wrote. I stayed too long in a version of love that required me to vanish. I'm done disappearing. And I'm not angry anymore, I'm just not waiting. I left the letter on the mantel, knowing she had the key. If she ever came looking, she'd find it. But by then, I'd be long gone. Not hidden. Not broken. Just finally living. It's been 6 months since then. I moved back to the city. Started teaching at a new school. Got a dog, a rescue named Marvin who snores louder than a lawnmower. I go on long walks without checking my phone. I joined a book club. I laugh out loud now, not because I'm pretending, but because the weight's gone. Sometimes I still think about her. But the memories don't hurt anymore. They just feel distant. Like echoes from a place I no longer live in. I'm not perfect. I'm not completely healed. But I'm real again. And that's more than I ever was when I was with her. Now I want to hear from you. What's the moment you knew it was time to stop fighting for someone who had already left the room? Was it a text? A silence? A laugh that didn't include you? Share your story in the comments, you never know who needs to read it. And if this one spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions, where the stories are raw, the endings are real, and sometimes, healing begins when the lies stop. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care of your heart. It remembers more than you think.